What's your name?
Oh, Christ, I'm not sure you're even up to the task.
What task?
Reporting from inside the police killings.
A psychopath is on the loose and he is killing only cops.
8 more coppers to kill. Bye. Yeah, I forgot. I've got a name.
No.
It's Blitz, as in Blitzkrieg.
He even kills an inspector in his own home. When the police eventually had him in custody, they were once again forced to let him walk.
Oh, there.
Something on your mind, Barry?
I guess I'll see you another day.
But the thing is, there is a cop that doesn't forget easily. Welcome back to Flick Holly Recap. Before we start the recap today, please take out a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin. As the film begins, we see Brant, an experienced detective, lying on his couch in a deep sleep. Awakened by a faint sound, he moves to his bedroom window and spots someone attempting to steal a car in the neighborhood. Without hesitation, Brant storms outside to confront the gang. He gives a stern warning for them to leave, but when they refuse and rather attempt to steal his wallet, a brutal fight ensues. Brant beats them up badly with a hockey stick and threatens that if he sees them again, he'll kill them. The next morning, the incident takes an unexpected turn. News spreads like wildfire, accusing Brant of severely beating innocent young men. The media frenzy paints Brant as a violent rogue, and the backlash affects not only him but his entire department. Concerned about the reputational damage, Brant's superiors send him to a therapist for counseling. However, Brant's defiance is well noticeable as he smokes in front of the therapist and issues threats instead of engaging in dialogue. Frustrated at the end of the session, Brant returns to the station, where he encounters Elizabeth Falls, a fellow officer. She confides in him about her undercover work infiltrating a drug cartel, during which she had to use drugs to maintain her cover. Unfortunately, the assignment left her struggling with addiction. Though she eventually entered rehab, her return to duty was marred by her failure to pass the sergeant's exam, resulting in her demotion to constable. Her admission weighs heavily on Brant, who tries to console her, but Elizabeth remains visibly dejected. Later, Brant visits Chief Inspector Bruce Roberts, a colleague struggling with the recent death of his wife. At the morgue, Bruce breaks down in anguish. To help him cope, Brant takes him to a local bar, where he offers companionship and lighthearted banter to lift Bruce's spirits. Despite the heavy emotions, the evening provides some comfort for the grieving inspector. The setting of the movie changes in the next scene as we see a female police officer walking along a dimly lit street. Suddenly, a hooded figure steps in front of her and opens fire, killing her instantly. The police department is once more rocked by the tragedy, and Brant rushes to the crime scene. When asked about Bruce's involvement, Brant explains that Bruce is still too consumed by grief to return to work. To fill the void, the department appoints a temporary inspector, Porter Nash, to oversee the investigation. Porter's arrival is met with hostility. The other officers are reluctant to work under him due to the rumors about his sexuality. However, their superior officer insists they cooperate with him. Surprisingly, Porter finds an unexpected ally in Brant, whose reputation for volatility precedes him. As the investigation unfolds, Elizabeth receives a visit from Metal, a young gang member and a friend seeking her help. He suspects his gang may have killed someone and he is now terrified. Elizabeth agrees to look into it but warns this will be her final favor for him. She advises him to leave the city if the victim is dead or abandon the gang if the man survives. Seeking assistance, Elizabeth approaches Brant, who recommends she consult Detective Inspector Craig Stokes. When they meet, Craig agrees to help but only on the condition that Elizabeth goes on a date with him, a demand she reluctantly considers. Meanwhile, Dunlop, a reporter, receives a chilling call from a man named Barry Weiss, who claims responsibility for the officer's murder. Barry warns that his killing spree isn't over and that he plans to target more officers. As he speaks, he carries out another shooting, killing another officer. Barry boasts about having 8 more names on his list before ending the call. The news spreads rapidly, sparking panic and urgency within the police department. In the meantime, Porter confronts Brant, questioning whether his infamous reputation aligns with the man he truly is. Their conversation reveals Porter's deep understanding of Brant's character, which once more gives both a fragile sense of mutual respect. Few days later, tension escalates yet again when another officer is gunned down. The team shifts into overdrive, rounding up known criminals and activating their network of informants. Brant meets with Radner, a supposed informant. He had planned on getting paid in exchange for information. However, Brant threatens him and forces him to give the information. So, he directs him and Porter to a man named Barry Weiss. Radner reveals that Barry recently bragged about setting a police dog on fire for practice, suggesting that there is a deeply disturbed individual behind the killings. Brant and Porter visit Barry's apartment, hoping to find evidence linking him to the murders. When Barry answers the door, his calm demeanor hides the predator within him. Despite a moment of hesitation upon seeing the officers, Barry quickly regains his composure. Brant, recognizing Barry as someone he had fought and humiliated in a pool hall over a year ago, briefly mocks him before leaving with Porter empty-handed. Unfazed by the visit, Barry immediately gathers incriminating belongings from his flat and sets off to hide them. Unknown to him, Brant's informant, Radner, secretly follows him and notes the location where Barry stashes his possessions. Radner, driven by a mix of loyalty and personal gain, decides to investigate further. That was when he discovers an abandoned car containing trophies Barry has kept from his victims, incriminating him as the killer. Meanwhile, Bruce, the grief-stricken inspector, heads to a liquor store for yet another bottle of comfort. Standing in the store, he has a moment of clarity and resolves to return to work and rebuild his life. Reporting back to the station, Bruce dives into his duties, unaware he is being stalked by Barry, who has already marked him as his next target. Barry follows Bruce to his home, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Knocking on Bruce's door under the guise of a neighbor, he attacks as soon as Bruce opens it. Although Bruce fights back valiantly, even grabbing a hammer to defend himself, Barry overpowers him. Seizing the hammer, Barry delivers a fatal barrage of blows. With Bruce dead, Barry calmly sits like a psychopath in the house and watches television. Just before leaving, he steals Bruce's police uniform and then sets the room on fire to hide evidence. Later on, Barry calls Dunlop again, proudly announcing his third kill and demanding the media nickname him Blitz. He emphasizes his desire for notoriety and promises more bloodshed if his name isn't in the headlines. Brant is devastated upon learning about Bruce's death, as the two shared a close bond. While he tries to recover from the loss, Radner continues his surveillance of Barry. He observes Barry moving items into a car and decides to capitalize on this knowledge. Radner contacts the same reporter Barry had spoken to and proposes a deal, $50,000 in exchange for the location of the killer's stash and incriminating evidence. Dunlop, who is intrigued by the potential scoop, agrees to meet Radner at a parking lot. There, Radner reveals the hidden stash in Barry's car, including Bruce's uniform. Though initially skeptical, the reporter starts to believe Radner's claims. However, before anything can be finalized, Barry, who has been monitoring the situation from the shadows, retrieves his belongings from the car as soon as the men leave. Elsewhere, Elizabeth goes on a date with Detective Craig Stokes and she asks for updates on the man injured by mental scan. Craig assures her the man is alive but hasn't revealed any information about his attackers. Elizabeth, feeling indebted, asks Craig how she can repay him, to which he casually suggests meeting for drinks the next evening. To this, she reluctantly agrees once more. Meanwhile, Dunlop takes Radner to a bar to pay him the agreed amount. After handing over the money, the reporter presses Radner for the name of the killer. Radner promises to reveal the name but excuses himself to use the restroom first to count the money. Unfortunately for Radner, Barry has followed them to the bar and he corners him in the restroom. Terrified, Radner pleads for his life, insisting he hasn't exposed Barry's identity yet. But Barry, never showing mercy, brutally kills Radner and escapes with the $50,000. The reporter, now alarmed, alerts the police about Barry's stash. However, when Brant and Porter arrive at the car, they find it empty, with Barry having removed all evidence. Brant and his team begin piecing together a chilling pattern. All of Blitz's victims have been police officers who previously arrested Barry. This revelation sets off alarm bells, as Elizabeth emerges as the likely next target. With the stakes higher than ever, Brant and Porter must race against time to stop the deranged killer before another officer falls victim to his wrath. In the meantime, after returning from her date with Stokes, Elizabeth is ambushed at her home by Barry. Just as he closes in for the kill, Metal intervenes. Despite his brave efforts, Metal is killed in the struggle. However, before Barry can harm Elizabeth further, the police arrive, forcing him to flee. After the incident, Brant and Porter decide to release Barry's photo to the media in an effort to draw him out. The strategy works as a man at a bar recognized him, setting Brant and the team after him. However, he escaped through the window of the room and Brant gave chase. Just as he closed in, Porter and the other officers intervened before Brant could get to Barry. He is taken to the police station. However, without solid evidence to hold him, the police are compelled to release Barry after 48 hours of fruitless interrogation. Frustrated, Brant and Porter craft a plan to bait Barry, knowing his ego and desire for revenge against Brant will make him reckless. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and Stokes become close, and as Brant predicted, Barry disguises himself in Chief Inspector Bruce's uniform and infiltrates Bruce's funeral. During the service, Brant slips away, with Barry following closely. He then leads Barry to the rooftop of a parking garage, where the tables turn. Porter had secretly switched places with Brant during the pursuit. A concealed Brant ambushes Barry, disarms him, and delivers a brutal beating. Aware that legal conviction is unlikely for Barry, Brant devises a dark plan. They will frame Barry's death to look like another of Blitz's murders. So, using Barry's own weapon, Brant shoots him dead. At the end, Porter disposes of the evidence and Brant tells him that the mystery of this particular death will remain unsolved for life. At the end of the movie, Brant unleashes police dogs on Dunlop, the reporter, as punishment for his damaging coverage of the department. If you enjoyed this recap, do not forget to leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.